Welcome back to the newsroom and welcome to today's culture segment on the morning edition. As usual, on a Wednesday, we're talking fashion, but after weeks of menswear and haute couture, it's time for something a little bit different. I'm joined by our fashion expert, Jessica Michault, who's the online style editor for the International Herald Tribune. And Jessica, I know that you zipped over to Switzerland to attend the Salon International de Haute Horlogerie in Geneva. Basically, it's a fancy name for a watch fair. Now, it's the forum when it comes to what's the latest sort of trends in luxury, when it comes to luxury watches. And I want to know everything, all the latest details in a moment. But first, I want to ask you, I mean, I've been told that most of the luxury watch fairs take place in March. I mean, is there a change here?
Yes, absolutely. There is a change. The Salon International de Haute Horlogerie, which is commonly referred to as the SIHH within the industry, up until last year showed in March, following the Basel Behemoth, which is a watch and jewelry fair that lasts a week in March. So after 18 years, last year decided, like most teenagers, precocious teenagers, to break away from Basel and set up camp in January to show its collection of watches. And basically, the 5-day fair is quite interesting because now it overlaps the end of Milan menswear and the beginning of Paris menswear. So it's an interesting new placement for SIHH.
But it must have been quite a hard decision to move this fair, though, because last year, of course, the world was at the height of the financial crisis.
Absolutely. There was a lot of concern that the international buyers, watch buyers, and press wouldn't go to Switzerland twice a year to cover the watch market. But in fact, the results are quite positive this year. There's been a 15% increase in attendance this year, and it's really made it possible for the watch brands, most of which are owned by the Richemont Group, to really stand apart and stand on their own 2 feet. Because before, after doing a week of Basel watches, then showing up for SIHH, people had their eyes glazed over. They'd seen so many watches. So it really makes them shine. It gives them a moment to shine. So it's a good idea.
So what's the latest news when it comes to all the latest trends from SIHH? I mean, has the crisis put a damper on things? Do people have the money to basically splash out?
Well, actually, surprisingly, the mood was quite positive. Many of the brands were telling me that they had seen better sales during the holiday season than they had originally anticipated, and they continue to say that high-end watches, you know, the hundreds of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of euro watches, continue to sell well. It's the aspirational watches, those that cost 4,000 euros or less, that continue to be hit by the crisis. We were seeing a lot more of extensions of lines, so cases and new metals, new watch bands, maybe splashing out on diamonds on a case. That was really a big trend. Also, a focus on heritage for a lot of brands. But really, there was one watch that really kind of had a buzz more than anything else, and that came out of from Montblanc. And it's a watch that's been called the Metamorphosis watch. And it has a tagline, 2 watches, 1 face. At first glance, the timepiece looks like it has a classic face and hours and minutes, and then that actually breaks apart that dial to reveal a sub-dial which pops up, and it becomes the watch becomes a chronograph. So it's quite an extraordinary piece, and it got really a huge buzz at SIHH. Cartier, one of Richemont's best watch brands in 2009, as far as results are concerned, are not sitting on their laurels. And for 2010, they launched a brand new watch line for men called the Montre Calibre, which is the first watch that Cartier includes an automatic movement that was built 100% in-house, and it also launched an entirely new women's line called Captive de Cartier. They launched a number of other amazing pieces, but I do have my heart set on one particular one, which is called the Cartier Astrotourbillon. And it took 5 years to make, and basically what they did is they stretched out a watch case to add a tourbillon that actually circles, which is a complication for the watch, one of the most difficult complications, that actually circles the watch once a minute. So that's one of my absolute favorites there.
Absolutely. I mean, all of those watches, they seem rather amazing, or they seem really, really cool. But, I mean, are there any overall trends this year when it comes to watches?
Well, for the last few years, we've seen, you know, bigger and bigger watches, 47 millimeters and bigger, and lots of complications on a watch that it did everything but, you know, make your breakfast. Now there's been a complete switch. We're seeing, I don't know if it's because the watch market is now, their SIHH is now linked so closely to the fashion, but thin is in as far as watches are concerned. We're seeing really slim watches, wafer thin. That seems to be the focus of a number of brands. One of the ones that really had a big one winner was Piaget, which showed the Altiplano watch, which was officially given the record as being the thinnest automatic movement watch, which only measures 2.35 millimeters, the actual movement itself. And then also Ralph Lauren, which only started doing watches last year, luxury watches last year, expanded on its Sim Classique line, which had been actually in the works for 4 years. So that was quite an extraordinary thing to see as well, all these thin watches.
Now, you've been talking a lot about men's watches, but what about for the ladies? What are the latest trends there?
Well, the ladies haven't been forgotten. Besides the new line from Cartier, Richard Mille has an award-winning watch that has a tourbillon movement for women. It's called the Celtic Knot, and that was, added a whole bunch of diamonds onto the case to make that even more extraordinary. And in fact, adding diamonds to a lot of different watches seemed to be a big focus for a number of brands. But I have to say, it's Van Cleef and Arpels that really came up with the most romantic watches. They had watches, a whole watch series based on butterflies, which used a stained glass enamels that made the watches look a bit 3D, which looks so very timeless, but also modern. 3D is very much in the news right now. And then my personal favorite and probably the most romantic watch out there is called the Pont des Amoureux, or the Lover's Bridge, and it has a woman and a man, the man the minutes and the woman the hours, who slowly move together and meet at midday and at midnight, and at the last moment she jumps into his arms exactly as the hour strikes midnight. So that's my little romantic final touch.
I'm thinking I need to get a new watch.
I think I need to get a new watch too. It'll just take me 20 years to be able to afford one of these.
Exactly. Thanks very much, though, Jessica Michault, for bringing us through all the latest trends when it comes to luxury timepieces. Now, the Château de Versailles is playing host to a special exhibition on photography inspired by the famous castle and its gardens over the past 150 years. Reportage, documentary and art photography are all present in Versailles Photographie, which runs until the 25th of April.
Versailles is no stranger to cameras, immortalised thousands of times every day by tourists from all over the world. Some take quick snapshots, others take their time and are a little bit more focused. And there are those who film in groups from the same angle. For over 150 years, the chateau has been a source of fascination for countless photographers. This new exhibition housed in the palace offers visitors a glimpse of some unusual views.
It looks a bit different since I had access to a number of rooms close to the public, whose decor is a bit the reverse of the public spaces.
But the chateau's celebrated decor is also featured, such as in this picture taken by fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld, or in this flamboyant image of Louis XIV's private apartments. And there's also reference to Versailles' role in history, such as these pictures taken at the peace conference held there in 1919. We see soldiers on the roof of the building, the Hall of Mirrors, the signature table, and this photograph of Georges Clemenceau during the signing of the treaty. But Versailles and its gardens have also inspired artistic photographers, with some of the images having an impressionistic air.
Versailles has never been like that. It's more like a dream image. It's going beyond reality.
Versailles has also served as a film set bringing the past to life, such as the Ancien Régime just before its fall in Sofia Coppola's film Marie Antoinette. But most of the time the famed chateau is the backdrop for more modest adventures.
And with that, we're wrapping up the culture and the morning edition here at France 24 for today. Thanks very much for watching, and we do hope to see you again tomorrow. And for an update of all the latest headlines, my colleague Hannah Moffat will be back right after the weather. Don't go away.